So if we just pop onto the next slide again, please, Scott. I'd like to thank you all for your time this afternoon. I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Hannah and I work as a Digital Learning Officer for WJEC. What this means is that I commission authors and subject matter experts to create and review resources, and I provide briefs and support throughout the process. I then carry out an initial resource check and ensure that formatting and alignment with the specification is all correct before passing the resource on through our in-house development process. I'm joined by my colleagues Danny, Becca, Karen, Sarah and Sean, who will be supporting this session and monitoring the chat during the Q&A. Most of us are past teachers with specialties across a variety of subjects, so we do have a good idea of what your needs are as teachers. The session today will last approximately 60 minutes. I'll give you a brief introduction to Blended Learning Plus and the new platform and the rationale for why it was developed. And I'll then hand over to my colleague Scott, who will demonstrate the features and functionalities of the new platform. As I mentioned, we'll then end the session by answering any questions that you may have about the new Blended Learning Plus platform. Next slide, thank you. I'd like to start by giving you this quick overview of our blended learning resources, highlighting their core purpose and their value to you as teachers. The video on screen is demonstrating how to find our resources, which you can watch as I talk. As many of you will already know, our blended learning resources are self-guided and interactive. They're structured as engaging lessons full of subject-specific content and comprehension activities which are aligned to the specifications. They've been designed with the learner in mind to support them in achieving their qualifications. They're written by experienced teachers and reviewed by subject experts, ensuring quality and relevance. We've also launched a new filter site, which you will have just seen on screen, which is easier to navigate and makes it much quicker to find the resources that you need. Our original blended learning resources for the current qualifications have been a huge success, but as you know, the new qualifications have introduced a fresh set of challenges. So we carried out a number of surveys and focus groups to understand what would best support teachers. The clear message was that you needed more flexibility to meet the demands of the new qualifications and to be able to edit and personalise resources to make them truly your own. That's why we're super excited to introduce Blended Learning Plus. It's our direct response to your feedback, and this new platform gives you the power to take our well-loved resources and adapt them perfectly to suit your local context and the unique needs of the learners in your classroom. It's all about providing you with the tools to be more effective and more responsive in your teaching. This is where the real power of Blended Learning Plus comes into play. By giving you the ability to edit these resources, we're enabling you to easily differentiate your instruction. Imagine a teaching topic where you know some of your learners will need a little bit of extra help. You can now add scaffolding, extra examples, or simplify language within a resource to create a version that supports the learners in your classroom. At the same time, you can also take that exact same core resource and make it more challenging for those learners who need that challenge. And you can add your own extension tasks, more complex questions, or even links out to more advanced materials. The goal is to ensure that every single learner, no matter where they are in their journey, can engage with the material, feel challenged, and ultimately succeed. This platform helps you meet them right where they are. We thought it would be useful for you to see some feedback from our teacher focus groups, as it can be quite daunting to try out new tools in the classroom, but we want to reassure you that it is intuitive, straightforward, and most importantly, a useful tool for you to use. So logging into the platform through your Hub account will be your first step, which 75% thought was very easy and the other 25% found it somewhat easy, which indicates that these initial first steps into Blended Learning Plus are straightforward to navigate. while 80% said that the overall usability of the editor was very intuitive. As with any new tool, there may be small challenges at first. However, once you begin exploring, you'll quickly find your way around the new tool. Don't be afraid to experiment because there is no risk of you breaking anything. And if you ever want a fresh start, you can go back to the original resource and start again. You don't need to be worried. As I said, it is important that you experiment and try out the features that we have on offer. To help with this, we've prepared support material to assist you in using the platform. This was proven to be very helpful for the majority who participated in the focus groups, and 100% of the participants in the focus group felt that Blended Learning Plus will be useful in their teaching practice, which we are delighted to hear. This was the reason for its creation, and we hope you will all have a similar experience. Finally, here are some examples of what the teachers from the focus group had a go at doing. It was primarily used to differentiate content for ability levels, but there are many different ways to tailor the content for your specific class needs. I am now going to hand over to Scott, who will give you a demonstration of how the tool works, and then we will come back together at the end for any questions that you have. Over to you, Scott.
Hello. Let me just wait till I see myself on the screen. Can everyone see me? Sorry. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll carry on. I've got everyone on the screen. No problem. Okay, so I'm here to sort of demo you the site. There's quite a lot to the site. I'm going to try and make it sort of make the narrative as easy as possible. I'm going to touch on the main sort of features and functions which we think that you would like to see, but there's a whole lot more, and it's about experimenting, as previously said, with the tool. So I'll start off in the filter site. The first thing that you will need to do as a teacher to access the Blended Learning Plus is to log in. There's a little avatar at the top. If you click into that, you will see there's a login to Hub. If you click this login, it takes you out. The login is actually Hub's login and not our login. So what we're doing is we're using the Hub API to authenticate you as a teacher, and then that will allow access into the site. The site itself is specifically for teachers and not students, so it's only users with a teacher role will be allowed access into the Blended Learning Plus. So again, your Hub email goes in, followed by your Hub password. Hopefully you'll have this at hand. And then as ever, we have the two-step authentication, which will require you to authenticate that on a local device or via a phone or email. Okay. So first thing to notice is that you should see your initials where the avatar icon was. This means that you are logged in. Another thing that you will see when you are logged in as a teacher is the My Resources tab. So as well as all the subjects that you'll have from the filter, you can also access your resources from your own sort of dashboard area for resources that you have edited, adapted, or created from our originals. Something else to show you at this early stage is that there's also help and support documentations. I'll click into this so I can load it up. As we said, this is the help and support feature, the documentation the teachers in our focus groups did find helpful. So the thing that's quite nice about it is if you want to edit something and you click to it, it will take you directly to where you want to go in terms of the site. So hopefully it's quite intuitive for you to find the support that you're looking for at that early stage. I'll just wait for my turn to stop. Okay, so once you're in to the site, and once you're into the site, what you'll then need to do is access the resource that you would like to duplicate. So we're going to use an example. I'm going to go to a geography resource. All the Made for Wales resources are editable. So all the wave 1 and wave 2 resources, as soon as they're live, will become editable to teachers. So here are the geography resources. So I'll specifically look for the qualification type, which is GCSE. The Made for Wales is teaching from 2025. They all have a little new icon on it. So if I click into that, you can see that we have 19 resources available currently for teaching from 2025. As we said previously, all are broken down into unit and spec elements. So it's hopefully easier for you to find the resources that you're looking for mapped to the specification element that you want to teach. Each resource has a card. If we click into the more information, it takes you to a resource reference page, which gives you a little bit more detail, and you can either open the reference from here, or you can open it from the card directly. You can see that you have the specification mapped underneath the title, so you'll know exactly where you are. Got some cookies I'll just accept here. So once you're into the Blended Learning Plus resource, you can see that I'm still logged in as my user, and you'll see as a logged in user, you have this little button here, which is to duplicate the resource. So this is the WJEC resource, and by clicking duplicate resource, what you effectively do is clone that resource into your resources. So you're not going to change the original WJ resource, you're just going to create a copy of it that will be accessible for you then to edit that copy. So quite simply, click on the duplicate resource button. It'll then tell you what you can do: add, remove, edit content blocks, embed media, teaching notes. Changes are saved to the resource automatically. There's a little thing there that talks about read mode. I'll explain that a little bit further. Something that is specific to a cloned resource or a teacher duplicated resource is that you can only duplicate it or clone it in a single language. Most of the resources will be bilingual by WJEC. However, we've made a decision that in order to clone a resource, we want you to clone a resource in a single language. If you want to create a resource bilingually, you need to create 2 clones, one for the English and one for the Welsh. They won't be connected in that way. Then you come to the resource name. So this is taking directly the resource name from WJC resource. However, I'm just going to, as an example here, I'm just going to give it a change. So I'm just going to say duplicated, or in fact, what I should say is teacher resource. It then explains to you where it will be saved, but it will be saved to the My Resources on the filter application homepage. This will be accessible whenever you load the filter and you are logged in. To share this, the resource must first be live, which I'll explain to you in a little bit. And once you have the live resource, you'll be able to share via a link. It says a short link here, something that we're working on. Currently, it's quite a long link, but that will be updated in due course. But the link is still shareable. And again, it's just confirmation to make sure this is what you want. So it's an English resource. The resource title, or the name that I've given it, is here, and it will be accessible from here. If you click into My Resources, it will open up My Resources, but I'll show you that later. I will then create this. So this is now duplicating the WJEC resource as a teacher-based resource. You will see at the top here that it tells you this resource has been modified and includes WJEC and teacher-edited content, and you can navigate directly to the original WJEC resource from this link. I'm going to close that down. You then, underneath the header, have this red edit bar. You can see that automatically I am in edit mode once you duplicate a resource. Okay, so you'll also notice here that I have my teacher resource. So the title has actually changed for the title of the resource also. And I come to the top and I come back to the filter site. Sorry, I should have. And if you click into my resources, you can see that I now have that one resource that I've cloned here. You can see that it's got the title change that I have, and I could open it from there at a later date. Currently, as we're in the edit resource, I will just keep utilizing this to demo what we can do. So the first thing is, like I say, you're in edit mode. So you can see that there's lots of things that highlight as I scroll through the content, or if I look at some of the content within the card. We have a structure that we refer to, or anatomy of. So the one here, weather and climate make change, is a lesson. Then the elements within that are referred to as sub-lessons. And then we have each sub-lesson has a number of cards which make up the resource. So what I can do is that at any stage, all of these are editable when I'm in edit mode. If you want to view the resource as a student would, you can switch just by this toggle button to the read view. And that then means you're just looking at it as the student would. In edit mode, some of the features, such as the glossary item, again, if I demonstrated that again. So the glossary item here, as I roll over it, it gives me the glossary term and the description. In the edit mode, you won't see that. In order to see that, you will actually have to click into the card element. And then if I click on it, I can see. But again, it's not as responsive to the content in edit mode as it would be in read mode. So it's a good way to easily switch. But as you see, just quite an easy toggle switch for that. And I suppose as teachers, how could you utilize this? Well, it's about going in and sort of taking what we have and then adapting it for your needs and requirements of your classroom practice. So as an example here, I'm just going to come to this page because it's quite a good example. So we've got something here about low pressure weather systems. So it may be that you think, oh, that's a read card. It gives me a little bit of instruction, but I want to change that to a different card type. Different card types, as you roll over on each card, as you roll over the left-hand side, there's a little icon. You can click on that and you can change. So these are all the card types that we have. Static cards can be converted to any of the other static cards just by switching it on, just by turning it. So again, if I make this for instance, a case study and save, everything comes from this save button. I will show you not what to do, just as an example, as we go through it. So you can see that that is now a case study card. I'll switch it back to a read card and save it. So it's quite easy to change the card type for a more specific card type that you may want. The activity cards, which I'll come to a little bit later, these can't just be switched because of the structure of content within the activity cards, means they're not just going to switch over. Again, I'll have a look at that, and it may be that if you wanted to change the activity type, what would be more applicable would be to create a new card type, take the information out of one card type, put it in another, and then delete the activity that you didn't want. Well, I'll show you. So if I wanted to change to a case study and I just clicked off what we refer to this modalist pop-up, you see that doesn't change it. What you will need to do is you will need to change the card type and click on the save. That's for everything that you pop up in terms of editorial content. So I'm going to just I'm going to convert that back to a case study just so we can see some changes from what we have. And then I'm going to click into the content itself. Within the content, you have a WYSIWYG or a text editor. What you see is what you get, text editor, with a lot of the features and functions embedded into the toolbar that you will require to know. So for instance, if I wanted to give a title, I could give a title at the top here. I could also, just as an example here, I'm going to show you two title types. We also have some titles, so a heading 1 and a heading 2. And again, I'll save this just so we can see them sort of stepping through the process and the edits you can made. So you can see you've got a heading 1 and a heading 2 added. I'm going to convert this back paragraph, and I'll just knock that back up. So we've got that. This title is always a heading 1, but you can actually embed heading 1s within the content as well as using the title block at the top. And then we've got the full range of text editing systems that you would expect. So there's a bold and italicized Wales for some reason. I mean, if I wanted to, I could add lists and bullets. Start it right. And you can change them to numbers quite easily. Something else that we've got, all the function that we have, and I showed you earlier, that if you want to add a glossary term, you can add a glossary term. So if there's an element that you want to add some context around, you could. And again, just click on the plus and you can see that that is now become a glossary element. I'm not going to go through all the formats because I think that you can have a play around with it, but we've got superscript, subscript, you can add some maths formulas, special characters, and there's some highlights. You can add a table just by structuring the table as you want. You can add hyperlinks, which I'll show you a little bit later. I won't demo that now. But for instance, what you may want to do is that you may think, well, this is a good starting point, but in order to make it sort of applicable to my location, so the Carnarvon element, you may want to add something to this card. And as I said, I changed it from a read card to a case study because you could add some content. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to contextualize. So in February 2020, Storm Dennis caused the River Taff in Pontypridd to reach its highest since '68. Homes, damage, costing, and you can add that. So now I've taken the generic content and I've made it local to my area. And again, just by clicking save, I will now, or you as a teacher will now have added that context to that card. So it's building up. If I click on depression, you can see that the glossary item is already available, not on read view. I'll go and edit again. And again, not to make it sort of South Wales based. If you wanted to, in North Wales, you know, in 2014, storm struck Aberystwyth seafront. So again, it's about that localized element that you're able to embed. We do, when we're creating resources, try to embed some form of localization, but it's going to be for around Wales and examples from various places. In terms of your teaching practice, you probably want to make it specific to your area and your locale for where you're teaching and where your students live. So again, you can see it's quite easy just to go in and add some of this for context. I'm going to save that. And again, that's got the Aberystwyth content in it now. Just to show you a few examples of other things that we can do. There is some media. So everything towards the end here is about you adding sort of media elements, images, and video. So this is an image link via a URL. You can't upload images, but what you can host the images. And as long as you take the URL for where that image is hosted, you can then place that into here and it will display. You can also do the same for video or other sound media. But to help teachers out a little bit, what we've got is these two elements at the end. The first one is called Unsplash. It's a royalty-free repository of images that you can source and use. So I'm just going to put in storms as an example of an image that I want. There you go, that's a good one. Aberystwyth. So again, you can see that what that's done, it's taken that image that I sourced on that royalty-free tool and it's embedded that in. To support the image, you have a context menu within that image, so I can make it left aligned, right aligned. I can center it. I can change the sizing of that image. I can also give it, for accessibility purposes, alternative text, although the Unsplash already has alternative text embedded into the image, so you can use that or you can change it. You can also add an image caption, again, to give some more context to that image. You can also make that image a hyperlink should you want to do that. Simply, I don't know what happened there. Simply click here. And again, you don't need display text, so you'll use the image, but you can put a URL to a link out from that. Okay. The other element that I think is quite neat for teachers to make it easy and accessible for you to put content is we've got an insert YouTube media. Now, all you need for inserting the YouTube media is the YouTube video ID. It's about a 10 character, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's 11 character. This one is actually. You drop that in, and in the start time and the end time, you can define when that video is played back. You need to put this in as seconds. So for 2 minutes, it would be 120 seconds. So if you wanted to start 2 minutes in, you put 120 seconds in. If you wanted to end 4 minutes in, 240 seconds, and that's when the playback and end of the video will start and end. I'm just going to click that plus, and again, you can see that the video is in here. In the text editor or in the edit mode, it looks quite small like this. And I think it's so you can see more things in the editor. But if I just save that out, when I come back to this mode, you can see it. And again, in order to view the playback, I will need to be into the read view. But again, quite easy to add, as well as textual content, sort of media content, images and video. Going back to the Cynefin element, and I think this is something that is quite nice about editing. You also have these edit tabs. Now, these edit tabs are to allow you to add content as extensions to the main body content in the card. So we have a hint, which is good for if you want to give them a hint about a question or you're setting them some work to sort of direct their focus. An extension, you've got an answer. If you ask a question within the card, you can hide the answer and allow them to actually initiate looking at it. And then there's a download element. So what I'm going to demonstrate, I think, what am I looking at? South Wales Fed. I'll go into add, first of all, sort of an extension tab. And I'm going to add a link to the Aberystwyth floods in 2014. Okay, so again, I did show you today, I'm going to show you how to add links. So I've got the content that I want to link there, and I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to put in the URL to where I want to link out to. This is a BBC News, and I'll insert that. You'll see straight away that it gets highlighted as you would expect from a hyperlink, and then I'm going to click save. Obviously, I'm just showing you snippets and examples here, but it's quite nice for you to have a play around and just trying to demonstrate what the capabilities are. You'll see in the read view now that there is an extension tab added to that card. If you click it, it will then open that up in the card. Everything opens in the card, but it initiated from outside the card. And again, if I were to click, oh, it's asking me to sign in, you can see that I've got a news article about the Aberystwyth floods. Why God keep doing this? Okay, so again, another thing that I might want to do, and I'll just demo this as the last bit, is I could do that same thing, but add a hyperlink, add a sort of download element. So add the title of your download, add the link. You can then test it out in the edit mode from here if you click, but again, I'll save this. So it's the same content that I'm creating here. I'm just going to show you 2 ways of doing it. So in read mode, and again, as soon as you add, you can see that download is always available. Downloads aren't initiated from the tabs. They are just available. It's just about adding some extension element to that card. And again, you click on that and it will load out. The extension tab and the hint tab and the answer tab are hidden until the user activates the tab to look into those elements. Okay. Let me have a look. I'm just looking for an activity so we can show you. Okay, so I've got an activity here. So all those static cards, you can do all of that with. You can have a play around with it. You can see what you can actually achieve with it. But activity cards are there as knowledge checks. So they're there to reinforce the learning that's either preceded them, that's preceded the activity cards, to discern whether the learners have understood the concept and able to answer some simple questions about that. Activities, like I say, can't just be switched out. But again, all I've got here is a true or false statement. I'm adding a true statement and a false statement, and then I'm asking the users to do it. I can shuffle the order of the statements. I can add another. So I'm just going to be just a demo. So again, you can see shuffle the order of the statements and the true and false. If you look at this in the read view, I'm just going to select. I'm not going to go through. Check. It then gives you an answer. I don't know why they're all on the left side. They should be randomized. I'll go and have a look at that again. If you don't, again, I'll just save it again, see if it does the same thing. I also spelled false wrong. Sorry, I'll go back in. You can see they shuffled. It just must have been how they shuffled. They just shuffled them all. I suppose if it's binary, there's always one or the other. Okay, so that's that type of activity, and you can go in and you can make changes to any activities that already exist. I think what's probably more appropriate if you're doing this type of thing is that you create an activity card yourself. So again, in order to create a card, you can create a card anywhere within the order by clicking on this plus banner. It's always highlighted in red or orange. So I'm going to put it at the top just so it's easier to get to. So we've got a multi-choice question, fill in the blank text. So they actually type the text into the blank, fill in the blank with a drop down. So you give them a couple of potential answers, one correct, and then they can answer them. Sortable, kind of a ranking, true or false, spot the mistake, thought shower, video with questions. It's quite a nice one. You put in a YouTube link and then you set time codes throughout the video where you ask questions. The playback of the video will stop at those playback intervals, ask the question, get the answers, and then at the end, it will give the students or the learner feedback on their answers to the questions. And then you can also add in some sample answers that you think is correct. A sort of drag and drop sortable into columns and opinion and question and answers. I think as an example, I'll just show you a simple MCQ multi-choice question. So I'm selecting that multiple choice question. I'm adding save. This will add the card to the sub item, and you can see here what we've done for all activities. If we haven't left them blank, we've always put in some canned information or some direct information that will direct you in how you actually go about. So again, you can see here, I've got a question. You put your question in, how you want to answer, and then you've got a set of possible answers, and you can either have one correct answer or multiple correct answers, depending on how you select them. If I want to add another, so I'm just going to add 4. I spelled that one wrong again too. Sorry, not used to this keyboard, unfortunately. And I'll make that a correct answer. I can also give some optional feedback as a statement. These are just strings, so you can't format these as you would the text editor. But again, there are ways of making some changes if anyone is interested, and there is some information in the help and support. Something I haven't mentioned yet, but I think is really quite would really help you, is that help and support in the context of what you're looking at throughout the site. So whenever you open up a modal or one of these pop-ups, you'll see there's a help and support. If I click on that help and support, I hope this works. It should do. It takes me straight to the multiple choice question, and then it will give me some example of how you actually create that. All right, so hopefully that context, help and support will make it really easy when you want to do something and you're thinking, well, how can I find the help for this? Like I say, if you just click on that help and support, you will have that help and support or the guidance and documentation for that specific element of the site. Okay, so I said, you're not going to be able to check this, test this as an activity in the edit mode. You will have to go to the read mode, and then 1 and 4 are the correct answers as suggested when I put it in. And then you can see here, so the answer is correct. And then you've got the optional feedback, which you could give to the learners. If I come out of that and I'll just run that again. So I'm just going to refresh it, sorry. So if I go back to the read mode and I don't get it right, I'll get 1 right. I'll say 1 and 2, and I'll check. It will then give you scored 1 out of 2, and your answer was 1 and 4, or the correct answer was 1 and 4. And again, your optional feedback is there. So it should give the learners some direct feedback on that. So I know time is getting on, so I don't want to go on too much. So I've gone in, I've made the edits that I want to as a teacher. I'm happy with the content that I have, and it's more applicable to my learners or to my locale. What I need to do in order to make this resource live to students is I need to change this from a draft resource, which is kind of a resource that you're editing or working on, to a live resource. And the simplest way to do this is just to click in these right little ellipses next to the done, and you'll see the status. You just click onto the toggle and it says, are you sure you want this to be a live resource? And then you can click update. It will then give you the link, the hyperlink to that resource here. And just by clicking in it, you copy it. Like I say, it's quite a long sort of URL. Now we are working on making that shorter for you. But again, in terms of accessing the content, if you share that with your classroom, they will have access to that. And again, if we come back to this result, I'm just going to refresh it just in case something hasn't refreshed. Come back to my resource details. I've also got a share button here, which I can copy that link at a later date. Whenever you switch from draft to live, it will obviously give you the link in order to share that. That's pretty much everything that we want to cover. However, just as a quick sort of finish off, I keep clicking that. In edit mode, everything is editable. For instance, if I want to edit the sub lessons, add a new sub lesson. You can do that. So if you don't want to work with the content that's already there, you want to just create some complete new content, you can see I've got an add sub lesson, and then you can build the cards up. If you go to the dashboard and you look at these lessons again, I can click in the objects here. If I go to back, I can actually change the lesson title, and I can change the image in that also. So everything is editable except it's the amount or the context that you want to edit. I don't think you can build everything up. And again, I will just demo something very quickly just before the end, because I haven't showed it yet. I'll go back to what we created here. So in this new sub lesson, I will just add a read card. Save that just to give it some context, and I'll show you how you can delete content too. So as the edit, Got here. So again, if I wanted to edit that sub lesson, I could just delete it. Save. And that's gone. Obviously, it's saying it's not available because it's not available anymore. So again, everything becomes deletable once you have it, once you've created it. So our content, as well as your content, you can delete from your own resource. One thing I will say, just in the context of sort of what the teacher editable items does, when we clone the resource, anything you edit becomes your content. But in terms of the resource itself, if you haven't changed any content, and that's the WJEC content, if we update any content to the original resource, it will automatically update your resource. So although you're creating a duplicate, it's not a full duplicate. You're creating a duplicate and then creating the content that you want to edit based on that original content. So I think it's quite robust in that sense. So if we find there's some errors in the content, you won't have to go in and make those errors once they're made. We can make those to our content. I think that about sums up what we wanted to cover. And again, hopefully there's some questions and they haven't just been quietly falling asleep in front of me. Oh, there you go.
Fab, thank you. So you can share your feedback on this session and ask any further questions, or alternatively, you can email resources@wjec.co.uk, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. And thank you all for your time this afternoon. I'll leave this on the screen for a couple of minutes whilst everyone sorts out if they want to fill that in. And if there's any final question, we can answer that now.
Something that comes up here is we are looking at developing Google Classroom integration into the share elements. So once you've created it, we will be looking that you can share it within the Google Classroom platform. So again, rather than just taking the sort of the URL link, that there will be a direct connection to share it within the Google Classroom groups.
Just another quick point, if you know of any colleagues who weren't able to make it today, we are running another 3 sessions over the next 2 weeks. So one in Welsh this Thursday, Tuesday following Monday, English the following Monday, and then Welsh again the following Wednesday.
Well, thank you everyone for coming along today, and we will share with you after this meeting. You'll automatically be sent a recording of this. And as I said, if you have any further questions, please get in touch with us. Thank you.